Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Late the W podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mahal. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, all of that fantastic jazz. If it's your first time joining, make sure you follow on social media at Late the W pod on all of that. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, we're active on all of those. So without further ado, let's sound the horn and get into this episode.
The pitch from Acevedo.
Swung on the line down the left field line for a base hit.
Fly ball, gap, right center field. And
Double him up at second.
Luke is going back to the 1-8 track. Get out the right, run and bust it, grandma. It is grand salami time.
And we send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
It was a weekend that the Mariners are going to want to forget for the most part down in Southern California as they dropped 2 out of 3 to the Anaheim Angels, Los Angeles Angels, whatever you want to be them to be called. And it kind of just felt like a lot went wrong. Now, first and foremost, some of the struggles that we saw on the opening homestand continued. Most namely, Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Josh Naylor. Especially those first two. Their struggles continue into now the end of the second week of the season. And as we begin the second full week, third week of the season, and the Mariners look to conclude this road trip on a more positive note, it was a frustrating weekend. And those guys struggled. Let's go through the 3 games. Let's talk about today's game, first and foremost. Today being Sunday, April 5th. I'm recording this 9:35 p.m. This is episode 137 of the Light the W podcast. Let's start with today's game, though. Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Josh Naylor. The first time they've all had a hit in a game this season. They each had 1 hit. Raleigh, Rodriguez struck out 5 times combined. And the first 3 in the Mariners' order combined to go 3 for 15 with 9 strikeouts. That includes Luke Raley, of course, as well, who had a golden sombrero. The Mariners had 15 strikeouts through 11 innings. They went 4 for 16 with runners in scoring position and left 9 runners on base. Those runners came from 7 hits, 8 walks. They began the game with a Luke Raley double on the first pitch of the game down the right field line, and it really felt like, oh, here we go. Offense is going to break out. They're going to get going. And no, that's not at all what happened. Luke Raley, as I said, leadoff double, but you look at the rest of that inning. Cal Raleigh, first pitch, soft-ass ground out. Julio Rodriguez with an ugly strikeout. Not seeing a pitch that even touched the strike zone. And that's really been the trend for him all season, is that he's just been chasing. He has not been staying within the strike zone. And when he's chasing soft stuff low and away, it's going to be tough for him. He's not going to be able to do much of anything. Josh Naylor then put a nice piece on the ball. Hit it 100+ miles an hour on the first pitch as he flew out to center field. And it was like, okay, you have some positive things here. You have some harder contact. Maybe something's going to get going. And it really didn't. The Mariners made Klassen throw a ton of pitches. They scored 2 runs in the second inning after giving up 1 in the bottom of the first. But the worry then was, how is Luis Castillo going to react to this? Well, he shut them down in the bottom of the second, but a run in the third, pair more runs in the fourth, and Castillo ended his day only making it 3 2/3. He gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, only had 4 strikeouts, didn't have his best command, didn't have his best stuff, and once again, on the road, Luis Castillo struggled. And he's going to be up and down throughout the course of this season, but you're facing a lineup that the Angels have that is not scary. I don't want to say it's not good. They still have Trout. Zach Neto's a nice piece. Nolan Schanuel's had a great start to the season. Joe Adell is the greatest Mariners killer I think I've ever seen. But it is a lineup that I need you to be able to get a quality start against. And as the Mariners are in game 3, of the series, and they have 3 more on this road trip before they get an off day, I need some length from you. I need at least you to touch the 6th inning. But he wasn't able to do so. And I come back as we kind of transition to game 2 of the series. Emerson Hancock was pulled after 6 2/3 innings. He had only thrown 82 pitches. And he was dominating. He gave up a little soft single, which is why they eventually pulled him. But you're telling me Emerson Hancock couldn't have at least finished out the 7th and probably touched the 8th? And you can save your bullpen a little bit? Now, mind you, Bizzardo was the only arm that threw alongside Hancock on Saturday evening. So in that sense, it was helpful. But that meant that Bizzardo was down for Sunday's game. And Bizzardo is your 3rd best right-handed reliever. And there are right-handed bats that you need to be able to face in the lineup for the Angels. And as we sort of transition back, because I want to talk more about sort of this bullpen management idea. Jose Ferrer was sent back out there after pitching a 1/3 of an inning to clean up the 4th. So he was sent back out there in the 5th. There were multiple right-handed hitters that he had to face in that inning. Let's go look at that inning, in fact. The bottom of the 5th inning, Ferrer steps back in, hit by pitch on an 0-1 pitch. Pardon, that was the 4th. We need the 5th. He gives up a leadoff double on a 1-2 pitch. And that was a changeup that was in the dirt. 74 miles an hour. Like, nothing really you can do. And that was a play that Randy Arozarena probably could have, maybe should have made. Julio Rodriguez wasn't backing up to his greatest ability. I need a little bit more hustle out there. It feels like this team, in some senses, is sleepwalking through this season so far. And that's just not good enough for a team that expects to win 90-plus games this season. Is it going to get better? Of course it is. Of course it is. I really, truly believe that. And I'm talking negative about this right now, and I'm going to get into some more positives sort of as we continue this episode. I wanted to start with the negatives, and we get positive as we head into this Texas series. But it was a disappointing weekend, so it's hard to stay positive. And, you look at the ball game. Should Ferrer have been back out there? I want to go back to that. That's where I was going with that as I continue my train of thought here. We're just having a blast out here. So we used to face Jeimer Candelario. Candelario, a right-handed hitter. Joe Adell, then, another right-handed hitter. Josh Lowe, finally a left-handed hitter. It's a sac bunt, so it kind of doesn't really count. Logan L. Hoppe, also a right-handed hitter. So my point here is Ferrer's job, as of right now, until he proves he can do otherwise, is to face left-handed hitters, get left-handed hitters out. And he does that with a ton of ground balls, a ton of weak contact. Now, when you are facing right-handed hitters and you're getting weak contact and you're jamming them, they're going to pull the ball. That means to the left side of your infield. The left side of your infield today was Leo Rivas and J.P. Crawford. Defensively, not good, especially range-wise, which is what matters when you're getting weak contact. You need guys to be able to range over into the gaps, make the play, make the throw. That is not what this infield does, and it's why Jose Ferrer is a little bit of an awkward fit for this ball club. I believe a lot in Jose Ferrer. I think he can improve the strikeout rate. I think he can be a really good reliever for this Mariners team, but I want to see him prove it. And I don't want to see him prove it in facing a bunch of right-handed hitters. I want him to do his job, face lefties. To me, Eduard Bizardo is the type of arm that is perfect for that fifth inning. Get Bizardo in there. That's his job. Fill those middle innings. Okay, Bizardo, you get the fifth. You pitch the fifth. Hopefully it's scoreless. You maintain the lead. Then you need to continue building this lead. But you need to maintain the lead that you have at hand. And look, I can't fully blame Dan for this. I'm not going to fully blame Dan for this because first and foremost, you need a better start and more depth from Luis Castillo. The Mariners scoring 6 runs through 9 innings should have been enough to win this game. Should have been enough. But they just aren't really in sync right now. And it'll get better. It 100% will get better. They just got to find that groove. You look at the first 2 games. The Mariners gave up 1 run in game 2. They didn't give up a single run through the first 9 innings of game 1. They gave up 1 run through the first 9 innings of each of the first 2 games. They couldn't muster up a single one themselves. And it wasn't for lack of possibility and opportunity. Again, they left 9 runners on base in Saturday night's ball game. 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. This team has the ability to score runs. They're getting the traffic out there through a lot of walks. They just haven't cashed in. 10 runners left on base in game 1. 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. 7 hits, 6 walks. They mustered up 3 runs that were all in extra innings. The Mariners are doing a great job right now of walking. So they left 10 runners on in game 1. In game 2, they left 9. 19 runners left on base through the first 2 games. You bring it to game 3. They still left 9 runners on base. The Mariners left 27 runners on base in this series. On a negative sense, they haven't been able to cash in. In a positive sense, this lineup is good enough to be able to cash in on those base runners. And if they're consistently getting base runners like that, this team has the ability to be really, really good. And that's why coming into this season, you feel really confident about it. This lineup specifically. But what it's going to take is Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh and Josh Naylor to be able to come up in big moments with runners on base because they themselves have been a big catalyst of the runners left on base problem. Quickly want to touch on Angel Stadium before I get into the positives of the weekend. Angel Stadium, I saw game 2 and game 3. So I was there for both losses. In fact, I was about 10 feet away from Joe Adell on that third home run robbery, which, by the way, unbelievable performance by him. I don't want to mention it all that much because it kind of hurts, but an unbelievable performance by him. He single-handedly won game 2 for the Angels. Angel Stadium, though, it is Alicia Keys says New York is the concrete jungle where dreams are made of. Well, if that's what New York is, Angel Stadium is the concrete jungle where dreams go to die. Did a little research over the weekend on the history of Angel Stadium. It was a baseball stadium, then it was a baseball and football stadium, then it was a baseball stadium again. It is the 4th oldest stadium in Major League Baseball, and it feels it. It definitely feels it. It feels like you're just walking through concrete the whole time. The food sucks. The concrete sucks. The lines suck. Getting out of the parking lot sucks. It took us 45 minutes on Saturday night to get out of the parking lot. When you are sitting in the right field corner, you can't see center field or the right field wall because of the dumbass large right field wall that is elevated. A lot of ads on their scoreboards that take up a lot of space, and overall, I wish there was more information on the scoreboard. I like a lot of the videography stuff they do. The Rally Monkey's kind of fire, I'm not going to lie. There are positives. A lot of their fan engagement stuff's really cool, but the food itself is garbage. It's just seats are uncomfortable. They're tight. Concourses are pretty tight and small. It's just not a great ballpark, unfortunately, Angels fans. Let's move into the positives, though, of the weekend. And first and foremost, let's talk about Cole Young, because this kid has been unbelievable this season. There are 2 games this year he does not have a hit in. Opening day and Saturday night. He is unbelievable. And I just want to check the Saturday night box score to see if he got on base in that game. Because I don't know if he did. Young. He did not. He had a couple strikeouts. Either way, the kid has been really good. He had a 3-run tank today, the triple on Friday, and extras. Every time he comes to the plate, it's like, this guy's going to do damage. I feel the best about him in this lineup out of everyone. And Randy Rosarena, by the way, has also been really, really good. Hasn't had the power that Young has had, but he has matched him in terms of average and just hits in general. Those 2 guys have been really all the Mariners lineup has had through the entirety of the season so far. Rayleigh's been up and down. Canzone's been up and down. Both those guys strike out a lot and have been part of the issue in the strikeouts and leaving runners on. But Cole Young, unbelievable. Emerson Hancock, unbelievable. Couple of those first-round picks, unfreaking believable. Brian Wu was great. And a little bit more in general, I've touched on a couple of these. There was a lot of traffic on the base paths this weekend again. They just got to cash in. They are close to me to being able to break out and score a ton of runs and just blow out a team. And they had opportunities to win 2 out of 3. And if it wasn't for Joe Adell, they would have won 2 out of 3. And easily they could have swept this series. This series could have been flip-flopped on its head. And the Mariners could have dominated and swept this series easily. It wasn't what happened ultimately. But you can't tell me that there isn't, if there are 5 universes where this series happens, and I told you that this was the one universe where the Mariners didn't win 2 out of 3 and sweep, I would have believed it. If you're telling me there's 100 universes, I think the Mariners win 2 out of 3 and 99 of them. 99 of them. And here we are. They dropped 2 out of 3. So while it was a frustrating weekend series, the Mariners had the ability to dominate the Angels, and they kind of showed that in many senses. They didn't look overmatched, dominated by what is a bad team in the Angels. They lost the 3 games. But to me, having that opportunity shows how good of a team they are, because they missed all their opportunities. Maybe that makes you a bad team, but in my eye, that's, well, you get the things you expect to click, and this team is going to go. This team's going to soar. This team's going to fly. They're going to sail to 90 victories, 90 wins, like we all expect. It's just about getting stuff to click together. And it starts in the clubhouse. Get these guys locked in. Whatever is going on, make sure that they are giving their all every opportunity. And maybe it's that they're trying too hard. Maybe that's why they're striking out so much. And maybe you just need to be able to take the pressure off and let them have a little bit more fun out there. Whatever it may be. But the Mariners are figuring out ABS a little bit more. And I wonder, too, does ABS affect these hitters a little bit, as if they're thinking about just another extra thing? I wonder if that's something that, possible is a possibility. I have no idea. I just know that when I used to play ball back in the day, and when I've talked to ball players, when you have too much going on in your head, that's when you're struggling the most. So I have no idea, but the Mariners are going to figure it out. And hopefully it's the beginning of this week as they head to Texas, Arlington for 3. Texas 4-5 so far early on the season, half game ahead of the Mariners, who are 4-6, as I mentioned. And for Texas, surprisingly, their starting pitching has been the biggest issue. They're 26th in ERA around the league from their starting pitchers. And a lot of that's from their first 2 guys, DeGrom, Nathan Eovaldi. 2 guys that are aging, but have struggled. Their lineup, on the other hand, has been decent. It's been up and down. It's patchy. Brendan Nimmo has been a great piece, a great addition for them. Started him on my fantasy league every day. He's been great. Corey Seager's been Corey Seager again. But Wyatt Langford has really struggled. Jock Peterson doesn't have a hit yet. Jake Berger's been all right. So they have some stuff clicking. But similar to the Mariners, they have some issues that haven't clicked, haven't gone right. And for them, it's the pitching side of things, which for them maybe makes the Mariners a really good matchup. Maybe for them, they're thinking going into the series, oh, DeGrom, Eovaldi, you look at this lineup that's struggling the way it is. This is a get-right opportunity. Our bullpen's been great. Go give us 6 innings of 1-run ball, 2-run ball. And we feel good about this series. And on the Mariners side, we might feel good heading into the series because it's like, all right, we did well against Texas last year. A couple of their starters have struggled a little bit. Maybe it's an opportunity for us to face a couple starters we know really well, that we've seen a lot. We know what to expect. Played in this ballpark a lot. We've won a lot of games in this ballpark. Feel a little bit more comfortable in this ballpark. It's an indoor closed environment, not dealing with the Santa Anas down in Anaheim or the Marine Layer up in Seattle. You're like, all right, here we go. Maybe Cal, Julio, they can break out. We have our top 3 starting pitchers on the mound. Maybe we can use our bullpen to our advantage and they can, pitch around some of these guys. We have our lefties to face Seager. We have our righties to face other parts of the lineup. This feels like a matchup we can win. And back on the Texas side, they look at their bullpen. They're like, we got 4 lefties in this bullpen. We're starting a lefty in game 3. The Mariners have struggled against lefties. Maybe that's where we find our success, is using our left-handed pitchers. And maybe it's pulling our starters a little bit earlier than maybe we would like to on a normal account. And that brings us some success. Well, for the Mariners in game 1, they're going to look at Logan Gilbert, and they're going to need some length. They had to use a lot of bullpen arms today because Luis Castillo, as I said, only made it 3 2/3. They had to use all their high-leverage guys, Brash, Munoz, Spire, Ferrer. Bizardo didn't pitch, but Wilcox, who's been great, he pitched. Legumina pitched. They had to use pretty much the entire bullpen. So the Mariners, they're going to need length from Logan, and that's been a struggle for him. He's had a hard time getting late into ball games, really all of last year and especially this year to start. And for the Mariners, it's how can you score earlier? How can you score runs off the starting pitcher and cash in on your opportunities with runners on? I'll face Jacob deGrom in game 1. 37-year-old Jacob deGrom in his first start went 4 2/3 against Baltimore. He gave up 3 runs. They were all earned on 6 hits. It's 7 punchies in that ball game. Four-pitch mix for the most part for deGrom. Added a sinker this year that he didn't really throw a lot against Baltimore. It was mostly 4-seam slider changeup for him. 3/4 release, of course. Good velocity, average 97.5 miles an hour on the fastball so far. That first game, he threw 43% fastball, 39% slider, 14% changeup. Like I said, 3% sinker. It's going to be a lot of fastballs, a lot of sliders. Julio Rodriguez, you're going to have to lay off the slider first and foremost. Left-handed hitters, you're going to see changeups. How do you approach those? How do you hit those? It's not going to be easy by any means, but you have the ability to do so. You are good enough hitters to go hit Jacob deGrom at this point in his career. You just got to get to the fastball, force him to throw the fastball. To me, I look at the Mariners and I'm just like, simplify the approach as hitters. It's lay off the junk, force the fastball, be on time for the fastball. It's pretty simple. That's all I want you to think about. Going up to the plate, put the barrel on the fastball on time, slap it the other way. Every one of the hitters. That's what I want. Junk, just don't even try with it. If they throw the junk for a strike, then you adjust. But make them throw the slider in DeGrom's case or the changeup for a strike before you're going and waving and chasing at it. There was more hard contact over the weekend, but too many just bad, awful at bats. And if Brendan Donovan is out again, I think it's time you put Cole Young in the leadoff spot or someone that's not going to strike out as much as Luke Raley does. Because Luke Raley, well, he has the ability to hit for power, ability to get on base. He strikes out at such a high rate that it makes it really difficult having him, Cal, and Julio all back to back to back. Because all three of those guys have struck out, whiffed, chased a lot this season. It's really easy to approach those guys, and it doesn't provide any protection for them because you just get into a groove. You're like, spam the slider, spam the slider, spam the slider, spam the slider, put the fastball way too high, put the fastball outside, and they just haven't been able to hit it. And Cal Raleigh hasn't even been able to hit fastballs down the middle, so maybe that's where he needs to focus his time and energy. Game 2, Nathan Eovaldi, George Kirby. Be the first road start of the year for George Kirby. He has a career 4.08 ERA, 3.61 FIP on the road. Of course, he's been worse on the road over the course of his career than he has been at home, so it'll be interesting to see what he looks like on the road this year. He's been solid to start the season, especially that first start was really good. The second one was kind of up and down. You're going to need a better version of George tonight, Tuesday. That'll be Tuesday. And you're facing 36-year-old Nate Eovaldi, who's really struggled so far this season. He's given up 11 runs that were all earned in his first 8 2/3 innings. That was in 2 starts. It's been a lot of splitters for him. He's thrown 37% splitter, 22% cutter, 19% curveball. And then he's thrown that four seam just 14% of the time, averaging almost 95 miles an hour on it. He wants the weak contact. He wants the whiff. He wants the chase, but that weak contact especially. You think about splitters and cutters being the two most used pitches. Splitters are going to be the one that try and get chase, try and get whiff. Cutters trying to get pop-ups, ground balls. So look to see what he uses early in the game, how he adjusts, how the Mariners approach him. Because it might be difficult with him throwing that much junk. They haven't shown that they can hit junk consistently so far this season. Game 3, the Mariners have to face a lefty in Mackenzie Gore. I already talked about it briefly, but Gore's a really good pitcher. He has really good stuff, and the Mariners have really struggled against lefties. I talked about it entering the Angels series, but Rob Refsnyder, Victor Robles, Julio Rodriguez, the 3 R's, you got to figure it out here. Because the Mariners, they're going to face lefties out of the bullpen, starting lefties too on the mound, that it's going to be difficult if you don't show the ability that you can have pinch hit options that can hit left-handed pitchers consistently. And it was my worry with Victor Robles on the roster because even when he's been good in his career, he hasn't been able to hit lefties. Rob Refsnyder, he's just got to get a few more at-bats to me, get a few more opportunities. I don't know what to make so far of what he's looked like, but for the most part, it hasn't been great. Julio, of course, hasn't been great in general. But those guys need to get going for the Mariners to be able to score runs off lefties and to get to Gore in Game 3. And with that, it makes the first 2 games in the series really, really important. Facing DeGrom in Game 1, really important to get a win out of that game. Because then you only got to win one of the next 2, and both those going to be tough. All 3 of these games going to be tough. And it's going to take your starting pitchers being at their very, very best. Gore's a guy that gets strikeouts, weak contact. He's not going to walk you. It's going to be a challenge for the Mariners. This whole series will. You just got to get off of the curve. He throws that a lot, 24% of the time so far this season. It's the most used secondary by far. Righties will also get a change mixed in. Left-handed hitters will get a lot of sliders, but a lot of lefties don't face him. He's been really dominant in general, but against lefties especially. And for the Mariners, it's going to make it difficult with how good he's been, with how good he is. The good news is he's overperformed what he did last year so far this year. So there's the ability to score runs off him, but you got to get some of these guys going that have really struggled so far this season. Mariners face Texas for 3 this week. We'll see what they can do. They need to muster up some wins here as the season continues. If you didn't see it, Mariners dropped 2 out of 3 to the Angels. A wild, weird, wacky schedule or season so far for the Mariners. Really wacky, weird series against the Angels. They'll get an off day Thursday. So big series here in Texas before you come back home to face current division leaders, the Houston Astros. Big opportunity for the Mariners. They got to make it pay off. This has been episode 137 of the Light the W podcast. Make sure you follow us on all the socials, leave a 5-star review, subscribe, like all that jazz. Go Mariners. Peace.